One of the scariest things in the lives of many people is the drive home from the doctor's office after being told you have diabetes. For some, it sounds almost like a death sentence. Is there any hope at all? You better believe there is. In the following video, I want to share with you 5 simple truths that can lead you out of despair and into victory. In the realm of diabetes, there's a lot of controversy and difference of opinion. Even the doctors don't agree with each other about the best form of treatment or whether there really is any hope of significant improvement. But I want to share with you 5 basic points which, if you really take these to heart, can give you the courage, the motivation, and at least some of the knowledge you need to overcome the monster of runaway blood sugar. Whatever you learn or do not learn, if you at least get these right and embrace these points, you have an excellent chance of defeating diabetes and living out your years unaffected by those terrible diabetic complications. Of course, you should get a great diabetes doctor and work closely with him or her. But having done that, there are 5 insights that will give you help in conquering diabetes. Let's get started. Point number 1. The fight with diabetes is winnable. Don't listen to the pessimists who would tell you that diabetes is some progressive disease which will only get worse over time, regardless of how you respond or what you do. So, how do we know it's winnable? It's very simple. If you simply look around and do a little research, you'll find unlimited testimonies, stories of people who've gone from a diabetic state to a non-diabetic one. I want to share with you a few testimonies that have come to me by email from people who have been so helped just by reading my little book, 60 Ways to Lower Your Blood Sugar, and applying those principles. This one is from a lady who appreciated the YouTube videos and also read one of my books. She says, in the end of June, I went to a doctor and had my A1C checked. It was 6.7. In 1 month, I went from an A1C of 6.7 to 5.7. on a strict low-carb diet, 60 carbs or less per day, that my doctor advised. The YouTube videos helped me stay focused and encouraged. Wow, from 6.7, which is diabetic, to 5.7, which is non-diabetic, in 1 month. Here's another one. Dear Dennis, I just finished reading your book. I want to thank you for sharing this important information with the public. I am a newly diagnosed type 2 diabetic. My first monitor reading in the doctor's office was 301. Wow, 301. My fasting glucose tested at 285 with an A1C of 9.9. The nurse practitioner wanted to put me on metformin immediately, but I asked my doctor if I could try diet and exercise first. He gave me 3 weeks. That was in June. Now, this email came to me in August, a couple months later. She says, since then, I've lost 9 pounds, and I've reduced my blood sugar reading by more than half. On Thursday, 3 of the 4 people I ate lunch with are diabetic. Thanks to you, I was the only one not on medication. I ate every bit of a huge salad and tested at 107 afterward. My reading last night after supper was 95. Now, I'm not trying to just toot my own horn and say that, my book saves everybody. And there are people who go a whole different route than the one I've gone, and they get results as well. Let me share a couple of reviews to Joel Fuhrman's book, The End of Diabetes. Fuhrman is basically a vegan doctor, so he goes an entirely different route, but there are some amazing testimonies of people who followed his way. This one says, I hardly ever write reviews, but I feel compelled to share my wife Robin's experience after 5 weeks on Dr. Fuhrman's diet. At 190 pounds and 5 feet 8, she was 50 pounds overweight. She's been on, he lists the medication she's been on for blood sugar, for blood pressure, so forth. He says her last A1C was 9.5. Most of her fasting blood glucose readings were above 200. But after 5 weeks, he says she's off all medications. Her last blood pressure reading was 117 over 78. Her fasting glucose hovers around 90 to 100, and she's lost 15 pounds. So that's going a different route, but still getting results. Well, we're not going to get into the low-carb versus vegan controversy in this video, but one thing is sure. People all over the world are finding ways to conquer diabetes and get their blood sugar levels back down into the normal range. And guess what? These people are not freaks or special cases. They're ordinary men and women who took diabetes seriously, and they found deliverance and victory. And there's no reason on this earth that you too, my friend, cannot be one of these folks. Point number 2. Changes will have to be made. Most of you have probably heard of the famous definition of insanity, which is to continue doing things as you always have and expect different results. For some bizarre reason, some folks, after being diagnosed as diabetic, are frozen into paralysis and simply hope that maybe it'll just go away, or maybe they'll be one of the lucky ones who never experience diabetic complications like failing eyesight, failing kidneys, feet pain, poor circulation, and so forth. If this is your thinking, you're living in a fantasy world. Diabetes is a lifestyle disease. Granted, some people are more genetically inclined toward it than others, but there are entire cultures and groups of people where type 2 diabetes doesn't exist. What is causing our current epidemic of diabetes, pretty much all over the world, is lifestyle. Lifestyle, lifestyle. And at the heart of that lifestyle that is killing you is diet, diet, diet. If you want any hope of overcoming diabetes, you'll have to make some changes. There's no way around it. It is your current lifestyle and diet that has brought you to this place. And if you think you can just keep on doing as you've always done and eating as you've always eaten and somehow magically diabetes will disappear, you are badly mistaken. We human beings love to keep up with patterns of living we've established over decades. But it is that very pattern of living that is killing you. That pattern must be radically, thoroughly, and forcefully changed. Get ready for some changes. Point number 3. Some sacrifices will have to be made. A sacrifice is, by definition, the giving up of something you enjoy. For example, if you hate Brussels sprouts and someone demands you give up Brussels sprouts, don't complain about the terrible sacrifice you've made. That was no sacrifice at all. But to thoroughly defeat diabetes, you're almost surely going to have to give up some foods that you love and have loved all your life. I haven't eaten a donut in over 15 years. Not because I don't love donuts, but because I know they're a nightmare for my blood sugar. Apart from doing a couple of experiments for videos I produced, I haven't eaten potatoes in over 15 years. Do you think I wouldn't love to go to a steakhouse and order a great big russet potato to go along with my steak? But I don't do that. I'd order a salad instead, not because I think salads taste so much better than potatoes. They don't. But I know what potatoes do to my blood sugar. Anyone who overcomes runaway blood sugar will make some significant sacrifices. If you go the vegan route, you'll be giving up meat, dairy, and eggs, and probably quite a bit more. If you go the low-carb route, you'll be forsaking cinnamon rolls, ice cream, candy, soda, fruit juice, French bread, pasta, breakfast cereal, and rice, and I could go on and on. There are some substitutions you can make for many foods, but there is no getting around it. You will have to make some sacrifices. Imagine an outstanding athlete who wants to play college football, but he refuses to accept the reality that you can get hurt in football. He tells the coach, "I'd love to play for your team, but you must guarantee that I'll never be hurt. I'll never experience pain. I'll never be violently blocked or tackled while I'm playing football." The coach would laugh at him and tell him, "You don't know what football is all about." Hurt and pain are part of the game. If you can't handle that, then you need to join the cheerleading squad instead and cheer for us from the sidelines. Similarly, sacrifice and the willingness to forsake some of the foods you've loved all your life are a part of the struggle to beat diabetes. And if you're not willing to embrace that reality, then you'd better just accept a miserable, unhealthy, and shortened life, for that is surely what you will get. Point number 4. Some carbohydrate restriction is inevitable. There's really no getting around this. I have some people make comments on my videos that carbs are not the problem, and if we can just eliminate all the animal products in our diet, we'll have perfect blood sugar levels and we can stuff ourselves with all the carbs that we want. There are all kinds of problems with this overly simplistic, naive idea. First of all, sugar is a carb. Are you really telling us that we can eat all the sugar we want as long as we lay off the steaks and we'll be fine? No responsible dietitian would say that. Not the low-carbers, not the vegans, not anybody. To suggest that we can gorge ourselves on donuts and pretzels and candy and cake and Twinkies and Fruit Loops and have no worries as long as we stay away from meat, eggs, and milk is foolishness. Dr. Joel Fuhrman is a popular doctor who essentially advocates a vegan diet. He's so popular, he's just about the king of the vegans, the granddaddy of all the vegan doctors. Listen to what Dr. Fuhrman says. Typical vegan diets do not show the dramatic improvements in lipids, triglycerides, glucose, and even weight loss. One important design feature for better health and disease reversal is the reduction of high-starch vegetables and grains and the substitution of beans, nuts, and seeds instead. A high-starch, low-fat diet, regardless of whether or not the dieter is eating meat, can derail weight loss and lead to high triglycerides. To paraphrase Dr. Fuhrman, he's saying that just being a vegan is not nearly enough to conquer diabetes. Just because you go vegan doesn't mean you can eat any plant-based foods your heart desires and you'll fix your diabetes. You're going to have to cut some of these high-starch and grain-based carbs. Dr. Fuhrman also condemns sugar in no uncertain terms. Instead, he pushes nuts and seeds, beans, and a lot of green leafy vegetables. And that, my friend, means that most people will be cutting their carbs drastically. Sarah Halberg gave a talk as part of the YouTube TED Talk series, which now has millions of views. In her talk, she makes one statement that is unforgettable, at least to me. She declares, low-carb intervention works so fast, we can literally pull people off of hundreds of units of insulin in days to weeks. Did you get that? If you're wondering what she means by low-carb intervention, she's talking about simply changing people's diet from high-carb to low-carb. Slash the carbs, you slash the need for insulin. And this is not some gradual 2 or 3 year process. Many diabetics can get off of hundreds of units of insulin in a few days or a few weeks, according to Dr. Halberg. Some may say, but I want to do it the natural way. I don't want to have to reduce my carbs. Carbs are natural. Really? Is it natural to eat donuts, chocolate cake, fluffy white bread with almost no fiber, candy bars, big monster pretzels made of white flour, to drink sodas and concentrated fruit juices and energy drinks which have no fiber and are jammed full of sugar? Is it natural to eat 6 to 10 servings of genetically modified fruit every day, all year long? Did your great-great-grandpa eat and drink these things? The way most people eat today is decidedly unnatural and unhealthy, and our epidemic of diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease is the price we pay for it. Point number 5. If you're overweight, those extra pounds will have to come off. Nearly every approach to reversing diabetes recognizes this. There's absolutely no question that there is a direct link between obesity and diabetes. People debate whether the obesity causes the diabetes or the diabetes causes the obesity. But however you feel about that, the point is, as long as you're significantly overweight, you're fighting the monster of diabetes with one hand tied behind your back. The good news is that typically when you cut the carbs, you cut the levels of insulin surging through your bloodstream, and you find that losing weight becomes a whole lot easier. You'll still have to exercise a little self-control, but there's nothing wrong with that. Self-control is a good thing, and it'll help you not just in diabetes, but in many areas of life. But many who go low-carb find that the pounds come off almost automatically without a whole lot of effort, sometimes even without doing much exercise. And speaking of exercise, I haven't mentioned it in these 5 points, not because exercise isn't helpful, it is, but diet is so much more important that this is where we must begin. We have to get our diet in order first and foremost. And while you're doing that, walk, use a treadmill or an elliptical trainer if your doctor approves, or whatever you like, but remember that diet is king in this issue. It is where the victory is either gained or lost. So these are the 5 must-know points to keep in mind as you begin your fight with high blood sugar. To review these points, number 1, this fight is definitely winnable. 2, changes will have to be made. 3, you'll have to make some sacrifices. 4, some carbohydrate restriction is necessary. And 5, get to the proper weight. There's one other bonus point I'll throw in that is really more important than any of the others. Ask God to help you. Invite divine assistance. God is for you. He's not against you. And as you learn in the Scriptures, God is very much pro-health and pro-healing. Well, that's it. If you've been diagnosed as diabetic, don't drown in despair. Diabetes is not the unbeatable terror that you thought it was. When I was a kid, a little boy named Billy used to bully me and push me around. I hated it. And then one day I made an amazing discovery. Instead of simply taking it, I fought back and I got the best of him. It turned out that Billy wasn't nearly as tough as I thought he was. After that, for a little while, I sort of repaid the favor and picked on him for a while. I know I shouldn't have done that, but it was so thrilling to know I could handle this guy. And that's about how diabetes is. Don't underestimate it for sure. It can rob you of everything that's precious in your life, including your life. But if you take the right steps, it's not quite as tough as you think it is. You can beat it. That's why we call this channel Beat Diabetes. Well, that's it for now. If you found this helpful, be sure and give it a thumbs up so that YouTube will rank it higher in its search engine and more people will be able to see it. And consider subscribing to this channel and then clicking on the little bell icon so that you'll be notified every time we post a new video. God bless, and see you again soon.